We're attempting to talk about patterns that connect. Our behavior can be tracked in a very objective manner, and we can start asking quantitatively, how do we really behave? And in behavior, I will look momentarily at human mobility, because that's one of the most important behavior forms. Where you are determines what you do. We find that most people have a 93% predictability. What does it mean? It means really that if I get access to your past locations with 93% accuracy, I can tell you we're going to be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Doesn't mean that we don't have free will. It's just that we don't really use it in the way we think we do. And when it comes to their daily patterns, we're terribly boring and we're terribly predictable.
We shall be data-driven. We shall measure the things that work, we shall measure the things that don't work, and we will learn from those. The definition of big data is to collect so much data to create a competitive advantage.
We're collecting so much data, and I think we don't know what to do with that data. I think that's become a problem.
Those people who know how to interpret data, they have the curiosity to ask questions, and those that know how to storytell, to create narrative with data. Because once you create narrative with data in the storytelling, then you can formulate a plan. You can formulate a hypothesis that you want to test.
I actually don't think everything can be data-driven. Rule number one, if you can't tell me what your idea is without PowerPoint, you don't understand that idea. Secondly, I always ask people when they show me tons of data, and I'm an engineer, and engineers are really good at bringing data and analyzing it 10 different ways, and they'll apply all kinds of algorithms. But the end of it, if you're truly an innovator, you have to tell me, so what? So what is it that we're going to do about it?
Philanthropy is not about giving money. It should be about solving a problem, which is what I believe the entrepreneurs do. So in my view of the world, there are really three types of people in this world. People who can see the problem, and since all of us are really good at that, let's call them human beings. Some of us are really good at also finding the solution to those problems, and those are the visionaries. And there are only one type of people in this world who go out and do something about it and solve these problems, and those are the people we call them entrepreneurs. Everything has to be scalable, and it has to be sustainable. As an entrepreneur, you should never, ever be ashamed of saying, I am profitable and I make money.
The traditional German Stiftungsmodell means, tue Gutes, aber bitte rede nicht darüber. It's a very Protestant ethic that means if you give money for good things as a donor, but don't talk about it. And this is the opposite. You must talk about it, because otherwise you cannot get collaboration.
The most valuable businesses are the ones that nobody else is working on. And in a very similar way, I think the most important philanthropic projects are the ones that are not otherwise going to be funded. Great philanthropy, like great entrepreneurship, has this in common, that you work on things that are very outside of the consensus.
Research has actually shown that companies that have a higher purpose actually outperform their peers in the long run. And so you might view it as social entrepreneurship or philanthropy, but I actually just view it as it's a great long-term business strategy.
We're in a world that's very focused on globalization, but I think much less focused on technology. And in some ways, this is already reflected in the division of the world between the developing and the developed worlds. The question of how the developed world gets better is one that's not very often asked in these fora. And one of the ways one of my colleagues at PayPal, David Sachs, liked to put it was that he thought that great entrepreneurs were missing the imitation gene. It was that people have this gene which makes them imitate other people, and great entrepreneurs somehow were not that good at imitating people. How do we create a society in which exceptionalism is not looked down upon, not denigrated, but in which it's considered at least borderline acceptable?